Hello everyone and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we're taking a look at Nitro Series Bumblebee from the Transformers Bumblebee Energon Igniters line. From my understanding, all the different size classes in this line can use this Energon Igniters gimmick. Obviously this size class, this is the Nitro Series. Although it's kind of confusing. I know that the smallest size class, what we used to be called like the Legion class, is called the Speed Series. I think the ones that are slightly larger at the $10 price point are also Speed Series. And then the ones that are like $13 and these, which are the $20 ones, are also called Nitro Series. So I don't know. It's very confusing to me, especially when you're trying to look up DPCI numbers and UPC numbers to try to track these things on BrickSeek. So it's very confusing. But you can see on the side of the packaging here that it does say Nitro Series and it says Energon Igniters. So this series, or size class I should say, comes with an Energon Igniter core, as does the lower size class, which is the $12.99 price point. And then these can be used with the $5.99 and $9.99 price point by like hooking them on the back. It makes them move or drive. So that's kind of neat. I haven't been able to test it yet because this is the first Bumblebee movie toy that I've gotten my hands on. If you don't count the VW Bug Bumblebee from the Studio Series, which I don't because it's not technically part of the Bumblebee specific toy line. So it's kind of funny. Hasbro is going to have this line, Cyberverse, Studio Series, and Siege all running at the same time. I think 4 series at once is a first for them, but we'll see how it goes. So, here we go. Nitro Series Bumblebee, you can see it turns into a VW Bug, and this Energon Igniter core is going to fit into the chest there. Open packaging here, kind of very similar to what we've seen with the same price point in Cyberverse. The Ultra class in Cyberverse has the same kind of open packaging here. I'm not a huge fan of open packaging for things like Imaginext and Play School. Like, I don't mind it, I get it, it's for younger kids, but I guess these are also for younger kids. These are kind of right on the borderline in my opinion because the transformation is somewhat complex. You can see on the back it's 9 steps, so it's not like a Cyberverse or a Rescue Heroes where it's very Rescue Bots, that's actually what it's called, where they're very simple. This is like, you know, getting towards the higher end. Certainly not Generations or anything like that, but I don't know. I don't really like open packaging, but that's just me. I can live with it. Not too much going on the bottom here. The back just kind of shows the robot mode, the vehicle mode, how you put the Energon Igniter core in there. And I guess it makes the car drive. I think that's what these all do. I could be wrong, but we'll see. So let's go ahead. Let's get this guy out of the packaging here so we can take a closer look. Alright, so here is Bumblebee out of the packaging. Here is the Energon Igniter core. You can see that there is a large tab here on this end, and then a tab hole on this end. I would assume that is for plugging into the various other toys that this claims to work with. I'm really excited to get a hold of some of the Speed Series, which is the lowest, smallest size class, the $5.99, because I definitely think these could work. It's a very simple gimmick. You can see there's a nice little bit of silver paint here. Otherwise, a pretty translucent blue. All you do, press this down, and it just kind of winds it up. And then the wheel just spins. It's kind of like one of those toys that you used to pull back and then it would go forward. Only now you're able to just take that gimmick out and just house it in this little square that you can just plug into other toys. So it's kind of like you can transfer the gimmick around. It's also really nice because then the gimmick doesn't have to hang off of this figure anywhere. It takes the gimmick and makes it portable. I think that's kind of fun. I actually like that quite a bit. I'm going to put that off to the side for a moment so we can focus on the figure itself. Now, it doesn't have a ton of articulation. It's very similar, in my opinion, to one of the Ultra class from Cyberverse, but I still think it looks pretty good. It doesn't have a ton of car kibble. Now, of course, you do see basically the whole back of the VW Bug on his back thighs here, on his calf muscles. But I don't think that matters so much because it doesn't really get in the way of anything. It would have been nice if just there was like a little hinge like right here and these could just kind of fold in, because then they could have covered the kind of hollow area in here while also not making the back look so much like the bug is just sticking off of there. So I kind of wish just this piece could have just maybe had a hinge like right where the gray meets the yellow, and then that just could have folded in on the inner thigh. But it's not a huge problem, just a little thing I thought of while I was tinkering around with the toy. But I think it looks good. Silver paint, all the paint here on the chest looks good. Paint on the head looks really good. I think the head sculpt looks great. Eyes are painted nicely. Autobot symbols painted very nicely. You can see that there's a smaller Autobot symbol molded into his helmet. Articulation-wise, there is a moving joint where the shoulder actually part of the torso, and then there is a swivel in the other part of the shoulder. There is kind of another joint here where the, I guess, it's like a sideways elbow. I don't really know how to describe that. There's a little bit of kibble here for the car, the hood of the car that just kind of rests there. And the way it comes packaged, it's like this, and it gets in the way. But if you just kind of move that up a little bit, just to give yourself some clearance, it can really move quite a bit. Now, the fists kind of rotate in, but that's for the transformation, so they don't really do anything. But you do have a decent amount of things you can do with the arm here. He doesn't come with a gun or anything, would have been nice. You do have some movement out to the side in the hips, but nothing forward, and there's no knee articulation. There is ankle movement, but again, that's part of the transformation. But you got some nice silver paint down here. I'm really starting to feel like Hasbro is moving away from articulation more in favor of paint. Especially for these kind of aimed at younger kid toys. And I think it just makes sense as far as make it look really pretty, make it look very visually appealing to a kid, and then don't give them so many points of articulation that they get tripped up. So I think it works in that regard. And like I said, he doesn't really have too much kibble. A lot of the Cyberverse toys in this size class with a gimmick have a ton of kibble hanging off the back. Like the Bumblebee in Cyberverse is like all kibble. It's like a straight plastic square hanging off his back. And I just do not care for that. I mean, you could even technically store this here if you wanted to, because it does plug in. You don't have to, but you could, just because the option's there. But he doesn't really have a ton of kibble. I mean, yes, he has the hood of the car here. He's got the back part of the car here. But when you look at him, he looks good. He doesn't look like just a giant block of something hanging off the back like a lot of those Cyberverse toys look like. So I think it looks pretty neat. He doesn't have a ton of articulation, but I would say he has more than some of the Cyberverse that I've seen. And the reason I'm comparing it so much to Cyberverse is just because the packaging reminds me of it. The size reminds me of it. I mean, here is Grimlock from Cyberverse. Same price point, same packaging. You can see they're about the same size. Pretty close to the same size. Both have great paint applications. Both have limited articulation. Both look pretty good in robot mode. I think they look good standing next to each other too. So I don't know. I feel like this Bumblebee line is definitely closer to the Cyberverse line, whereas like Studio Series is closer to Generations / Siege War for Cybertron, what's coming up. So you're going to kind of have two more kiddie-oriented lines and then two more collector-oriented lines, which is great. I think that's nice. There's a lot of options. There's also rescue bots thrown in the mix for even younger kids. So Hasbro has all the bases covered. But I definitely think that older collectors can have some fun with these as well because they look good. Like I said, decent articulation. Paint looks great. Let's get into the transformation, and then I can show off the gimmick as well. Alright, so transformation is actually pretty simple. You're going to start by folding the head down into the chest, and you can see the hinge is actually here. So the back of the bottom of his neck is what slides along a track on the inside. It actually works quite well. So you just pop that all the way down in there like that. Fold those wrists up like I showed earlier. Then you're going to pop these all the way up. And what I would do at this point, just pull these off and put them to the side because otherwise they get in the way. And then you're going to go ahead and pop this all the way up. And you can see that there's a tab that sticks out. You want to make sure that gets underneath. It's a little difficult to line everything up, but it's really not that big a deal once you get the hang of it, which apparently I haven't yet. Alright, there you go. Tab that in. Okay. So pull this back, do the same. You can see that there's a tab slot in there, and that's for this tab I showed you a minute earlier. So make sure that's in. Now at this point you're going to tab these two light gray fender pieces together, and one just tabs into the other one. You can see right there. And they don't stay together amazingly, but it's probably just because I'm not doing it right. There we go. So at this point you're going to bring this up, and you can see that there's these two little loops, and that's for these tabs here on the inside. So kind of bring this up and tuck this in. Bring that up, tuck that in. There we go. So that is the hood of the car. And again, I popped this loose. It happens. But anyway, there's the whole front of the car. So, back part. Very simple. Fold the feet down. Forms pretty much the entire back part of the car. Now you can see in here, this actually accordions in on itself a little bit. So do that, then you're going to peg these together. You're thinking, hey, this is still not quite right. You can see this empty space in here. That's a track. The whole waist section is going to push forward on that track. So you just kind of push and wiggle, and then everything snaps together pretty solidly. And I have to say, it's a good looking little VW Bug. I think it works. You can see there's a VW symbol molded in there on the hood. Would have loved a little red Autobot symbol here on the one side, but I understand why it doesn't happen. You can see a little bit of the robot mode, mostly just this this torso, which is completely molded in. It does not actually transform. Those pieces do not actually transfer up here, as you can tell, but rolls pretty well. Nice silver paint there on the tires. You can see the VW Bug symbol is also there on the tires, which is pretty cool. On the hubcaps, I should say. Rolls really well, which is very important. So what you do is you go ahead and you just open up this midsection. The whole hood just opens up, and you can see it's pretty hollow under here. You take this piece, and you can see that there is a groove that runs along right here at the top of my fingernail all the way down, and that is on both sides. You can see it right there. Here is the groove. You can see down inside here there's these tab here, tab here, tab here, and tab here. So you're going to kind of just bring this down. You want to make sure the tab is facing to the front. You want to kind of just maneuver this in here, and it'll just kind of find its spot. It'll kind of click in. Now you probably will have to unpeg this a little bit, but once you have it in there, you can peg this back in. And then it actually, well, the core holds in place very nicely. The gray fender does not. But you can see it's really not, it's not falling out of there anytime soon, which is nice. These you can kind of position however you want. If you want to leave them all the way out, you can. If you want to kind of, you know, push them up like this. This is kind of what the directions show. But they don't lock in place anywhere, so it's kind of just up to your discretion. You can put them wherever you want. But basically how this works, you push this down, and it just moves on its own. So let's see if I can... So, I mean, it doesn't go flying, and probably if I just let it go with reckless abandon. So I think that's kind of neat. You can see that the wheel here is actually all on the same plane as the wheels. It rolls very nice. It's kind of a neat little gimmick. It's not amazing. It's definitely not groundbreaking or anything like that. It's just goofy little fun. You can clip it in. It stays in there very nice. It works. You know, it rolls. It makes the car travel across the surface very simply. I just think it's fun. It's something I think kids will definitely have a good time with. And like I said, my favorite part about that gimmick is that you can just take it right out. And it doesn't make the robot mode suffer from having this gimmick hang off of it somewhere. Because if anyone remembers the Throttlebots from back in the day, the G1 Throttlebots, the gimmick was the whole base of their robot mode. So like it was, here was that the gimmick built in, and then this just kind of stood up, and that was the robot mode. Like this part was the robot mode, and it just had that base that hung out the back. They've made it so that they can compress that into this little gimmick that you can just easily take out, and now this can transform into a decent robot mode without having any large gimmick piece hang off of it. And I think that's good. I think that's a smart way to do it. To transform this back, you kind of have to rock this out a little bit. And then you'll hear that click, and then you can unpeg this, and then kind of drop this back down, and then flip out the feet. And I mean, the transformation, especially going back, I feel like back to robot mode is even easier than into vehicle mode. Because when you do this, taking these arms down is a heck of a lot easier than getting them all to peg into place going up. So you can really transform it into robot mode much quicker. And then you just kind of position the arms however you like. And then pop the head up. Come on, you. So yeah, I like it. Like I said, it's definitely a little gimmicky. And it doesn't have as much articulation as like a normal deluxe figure. But I don't think that's what it's going for. I think it's going for nice paint. Decent, but still simple transformation for younger kids. And this little gimmick, I think it kind of works. I think the way they've incorporated it really works. Especially if you're allowed to take this and hook it to smaller figures and other figures in the line. And get the same movement gimmick with other toys. I think that's really smart. I think that's fun, and it promotes crossplay, and it gives you a reason to buy other toys and hook these in and just have fun with it. I mean, I think it's a simple, goofy gimmick, but I think it's fun. And I don't think it takes away from the robot mode all that much. I wanted to do a little size comparison for you guys real quick. So this is Cyber Battalion Sideswipe, Ultra Class Cyberverse Grimlock, and then in the back we have Ultimate Class Cyberverse Optimus. I just feel like these all really fit well together. I kind of equate these lines together because they're all kind of bulkier, simple transformations that are still fun, yet simple enough that younger kids can pull them off and still feel satisfied, if that makes sense. So, like, I don't know. I just think these lines work well together. Obviously, I feel like the scale works well. The Cyber Battalion are very similar in size to the Ultra Class Cyberverse. And this Nitro series Bumblebee, I mean, they're all kind of the same size class. They're all around the same price point. I feel like they all work well together. They all have nice paint, fairly simple transformations, great robot modes. I just think these work together. What I've been kind of doing is picking and choosing the Ultra and Ultimate Class Cyberverse, the Cyber Battalion, and now these new B figures, and just kind of putting them all in a universe together. And it's kind of funny because I really do not care for the Ultra Class B from Cyberverse or the Bumblebee from the Cyber Battalion. So this is kind of perfect because I found a Bumblebee that I like. I love the alt mode, and I just think it works. I really should try to see if I can somehow connect this to the Cyber Battalion figures because that would be really fun. I don't think it's going to work, but it would be neat. But yeah, I don't know. I just think this is a really nice size comparison here. I think these scales work together because Optimus was always a little bit larger than the rest of the troops. Technically, Grimlock should be the largest here, but what are you going to do? Yeah, I don't know. I just think these lines work well together, and I think they look great. I actually like this figure a lot more than I thought I was going to. It's been a bit of a roller coaster ride with these figures. Initially, when I saw the pictures online from San Diego Comic Con, I believe, I thought they had promise. I thought they looked okay. You know, I was leaning towards getting them. Then when I kind of saw them in person, I had second thoughts, and I thought, oh, I don't know. These really remind me of some of the Ultra Class from the Cyberverse line, which I don't care for most of them. I've kind of been picking and choosing. There are a few I like. Most of them have way too much back kibble. But this really impressed me, and I think it's fun. I think the entire Energon Igniter core gimmick is a neat idea that it works throughout the line with all the different size classes. You do have to buy at least one of the $12.99 or $19.99 figures to get one of these cores, but then you can buy, you know, nothing but the smallest class, the second smallest class, and they should all work with the same cores. And I think that's kind of a neat idea to have this one universal gimmick throughout. It's a very simple gimmick, but it's fun. And I think kids are definitely, especially, going to enjoy it, hooking these to various different figures and having them zoom across tabletops and things like that. So I think it's a nice, it's a, yes, $20 is a bit much, but I do think they're sacrificing articulation points in favor of paint applications because it has a lot of nice paint applications. The head especially, the chest, the Autobot symbol. You have paint all here in the arms and the shins and everything and the ankles. It looks good. I think it really looks good in both modes. The transformation is simple but fun, and I think having room for that gimmick while at the same time not being so obvious for the gimmick, if that makes sense. You could just throw the gimmick away and just have a decent little Bumblebee toy that transforms into a perfectly excellent little VW bug, and you don't see the obvious hole where to plug the gimmick in. It doesn't take away from the vehicle mode. It just augments it if you choose to. I think that's good. I think they really covered all their bases in that fact. So I think kids are going to like this. I think collectors could even have some fun with this. Just go in knowing, you know, it's not a Generations or a Studio Series figure. It's not going to have all those points of articulation. The transformation is not overly complicated. It's a little bit something simpler to just have some fun with. And if you're a fan of the Cyberverse or Cyber Battalion lines, I think it scales really nicely with those lines. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, thank you so much for watching.